Invitations, which most of us receive from time to time, may be for a good meal or a hearty party. And sometimes we want to return these invitations, but our hospitality may seem a bit lame by comparison to theirs. For example, inviting our friend or friends to worship with us. Why this might embarrass us when inviting them to a ball game wouldn't, often has to do with who's playing. Here's how a number of practicing Christians deal well with this. This is the Practicing Christian, and this week's report is on what's cooking. Why would we want to invite someone to worship on Sunday morning with us if he's a member of another church, or an unbeliever, or a confirmed fisherman? He may suspect that we want to convert him from his variety, or from no variety of Christianity, to ours, that we want him to believe as we do, that he's lonely with all that fishing, and that we want him to meet our cousin Ginger. Ye may be right. I suspect he'd only be partially right. We want him in our church more from the fact that we enjoy his company, and this way we'd get to see more of him, than that we want to go fishing with him more often and could perhaps convince him to do that on Saturday. Motivations, including those that keep us away from worship, can be quite complex. We may not even realize how complex our own are. One lovely lady I know who prays for her son to join any good church has hopes that he'd marry then and she'd have some grandchildren. But in many instances, the men and the women we might want to see in our church, for whatever reasons, will only infrequently hear this invitation from us. We feel too embarrassed, in many cases, to give that invitation. We can imagine that our friend would stay away from us, shy away. Worse, he may come there and be bored or irritated. What to do? One good thing to do is to identify the central reason why he may want to come to your church. Not what's on your mind, but what he may find there that's special. Sadly, while the coffee and pastries may be on the menu, Jesus may not. Now, of course, in any Christian church, Jesus will be spoken of as central to who you are. A service focused on, for example, child abuse, or the church's upcoming opening of a mission nearby, may have most of the worship hour focused on the problems of some children or good events in the life of the church. A practicing Christian can mention this absence of a central item to his pastor or a lay leader and ask for a list of Sundays where the worship will be focused on Jesus, who he is, what he offers us, and his coming kingdom. In that case, you can invite your friend to come to a service that focuses primarily on Jesus, not the church or its projects. That may help, unless, of course, your friend is a volunteer first responder and your church is about to begin developing a similar volunteer force for this sort of work. In either case, he may be coming home with you for lunch for quite a few Sundays, if you've invited him to do so. By the way, even if you do none of the above, an invitation to your home after worship for lunch is a good way to encourage him to say yes to coming to worship as well as to lunch. Having others over on the same Sunday may or may not work. If you and they get into animated conversation, your friend may feel left out or isolated. The title of this report, What's Cooking?, was deliberately chosen to emphasize that you and your church are invited by God to feed the souls of other men. It can then be a natural thing to examine where the worship, work, and fellowship of your church is doing just that. In some cases, nothing much is happening like this at all. In others, it may be accidentally done. Practicing Christians can ask themselves, and the people in their church, if their church is purposefully seeking to feed the souls of both your members and those who come to worship with you for the first time. There are so many ways to share the bread of life with others. Serve then. Be the King's right arm.